So, let's talk about one of the most pivotal figures in all of Western history, William the Conqueror. This is a story about a man whose ambition didn't just win him a crown, it literally forged a new nation.
But before he got that epic title, the Conqueror, he was known by something, well, a lot less flattering. And this nickname, William the Bastard, wasn't just some schoolyard insult. It was a constant shadow over him, a reminder of his shaky claim to power. And it was probably the engine that drove his entire life.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? How did this guy, an outcast duke, manage to risk everything, cross a treacherous sea, and snatch one of the most powerful thrones in Europe? It's an incredible story that kicks off a chain reaction that would completely redefine England.
Okay, so let's get right into it. To really get a handle on the man, you have to start at the beginning, with his very complicated origins, and the, shall we say, tenuous thread connecting him to the English crown. Yeah, his childhood was anything but a fairy tale. I mean, being named heir at just 7 years old sounds great, right? Except his life was in constant danger from his own relatives, who saw him as just an obstacle. His entire youth was basically a crash course in survival, politics, and warfare. It made him tough, pragmatic, and absolutely determined.
And here we go. This is the moment the fuse is lit. The King of England dies, and he has no kids. This creates a massive power vacuum in one of the richest kingdoms in Europe. Suddenly, the English throne is the biggest prize on the continent, and it's completely up for grabs.
Now, this wasn't a simple two-way fight. Oh no, this was a three-way, winner-take-all royal rumble. You had the insider, Harold Godwinson, the local guy picked by the English nobles. Then you had Harald Hardrada, a literal Viking legend from Norway. And of course our guy, William, over in Normandy saying, "Hey, the old king promised it to me." With a lineup like that, William knew he couldn't just sit around and wait for an invitation. So he decided to do something absolutely audacious. He decided to bet everything on one single, incredibly risky move, a full-blown invasion across the English Channel.
And look at this number. We're talking about an invasion fleet of nearly 700 ships. Let that sink in. This was one of the biggest amphibious invasions in history at that point. This wasn't some small raid. It was a massive army of soldiers and mercenaries. And, get this, thousands of war horses, all packed onto these wooden ships. The logistics are just mind-boggling.
And here's where you almost have to feel bad for the new English King Harold. His luck was just awful. He had to fight not one, but two massive invasions at opposite ends of his country. So first, he marches north and manages to defeat the Vikings. But just as he's catching his breath, he gets the news William has landed in the south. So his exhausted army has to turn right around and force march almost 250 miles to face a fresh, rested Norman army. Just brutal.
And now we get to the climax. All the politics, the claims, the marching, the incredible gamble, it all comes down to this. One single bloody day that will decide the fate of England for the next 1,000 years.
So the two armies finally meet near a town called Hastings, and what happens next isn't some quick, decisive fight. We're talking about a brutal 9-hour slugfest. It was an absolute meat grinder, a real testament to just how badly both sides wanted it.
The English had their legendary shield wall, this almost unbreakable human fortress. And for hours, William's knights just smashed against it and failed. But William was smart. He was adaptable. He had his men pretend to run away, the feigned retreat, to trick the English into breaking their formation. When they charged out, the Normans would turn and cut them down.
And this is the moment everything changes. Captured forever on the famous Bayeux tapestry. It says, "King Harold is killed." The story goes he took an arrow to the eye. With their king gone, the English shield wall shattered, and their will to fight just collapsed. It was over.
You know, you'd think winning the battle would be the hard part. But for William, that was just the beginning. Now he had to figure out how to actually control an entire country of people who saw him as a foreign invader. So how'd he do it?
So picture this. It's Christmas Day, just 2 months after the battle, and William has himself crowned King of England. But that was mostly for show. The reality was that for years afterwards, he had to wage these brutal campaigns all across the country, crushing rebellion after rebellion to hammer his new kingdom into submission.
William's plan for total control was nothing short of systematic genius. First, castles. He built them everywhere, these stone monsters like the Tower of London, basically as giant billboards of Norman power. Second, He fired the entire English ruling class and replaced them with his own loyal Norman buddies. Introducing feudalism, this was key. And finally, he created the Doomsday Book, an unbelievably detailed survey of every single piece of land, every person, every pig in his kingdom. Why? So he knew exactly how much he could tax it all.
Okay, so why are we still talking about all this? Why does a battle from nearly 1,000 years ago still matter? Well, because its impact wasn't just political. It permanently changed the culture, the language, and the soul of England. You see, before 1066, England was basically part of the Viking world, with its connections all pointing towards Scandinavia. William's conquest completely severed those ties. He grabbed England and yanked it into the world of mainland Europe, especially France. That pivot would define English history for centuries.
And for me, the most amazing legacy is one you use every single day: the English language. Just think about this. The Anglo-Saxon peasants, the ones working the fields, they kept their words for the live animals: swine, cow, sheep. But the new French-speaking Norman lords, the ones eating the fancy meals, gave us their words for the meat on the plate: pork, beef, mutton. It's a class divide baked right into our vocabulary. Incredible, right?
So when you put it all together, his legacy is it's everywhere. He gave us a new language, this amazing fusion that became modern English. He gave England a new system of government. And he literally changed the landscape with all those imposing castles and cathedrals, many of which are still standing today.
And for a man who lives such a dramatic, larger-than-life story, his end was, well, it was also dramatic, but in a much more gruesome way. It's a chaotic and pretty undignified end for the man who had bent a kingdom to his will.
And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Who was this guy? Was he a brutal foreign tyrant who crushed an entire culture? Or was he the ruthless but visionary architect of the nation we now know as Britain? The truth is he's probably both, and his story is written in the stones of his castles and in the very words we're speaking right now.